Good afternoon, everyone. I told you I would update you concerning our murder we had this morning on St. Paul Drive, just outside of the city limits of Winter Haven. And I will first recap. A lady got off of work, our witness, and she was going to a friend's house in order to avoid the long drive home. As she pulled into the driveway of the friend's house, and that was on St. Paul Drive, 3060 St. Paul Drive, she called her friend inside and said, "Hey, somebody's laying in your driveway." So the friend comes out and the two of them look, and there is this person deceased. This person that was deceased turns out to be 15 years of age. We've now made the notice to the kinfolks, and I am able to release his name and his identification in order to help advance this investigation because his mother gave us permission to. His mother said to us, because my question was, "Where's your 15-year-old son in the middle of the night? Why isn't he home in bed?" Mom thought he was home in bed. She has a infant, a baby, and when she went to bed last night at about 10 o'clock, he was sitting on the couch playing games on his phone. Mom woke up about 3 o'clock this morning to tend to the baby and noticed that the 15-year-old was not on the couch, so she figured he'd gone to bed. As far as she knew, he was home in bed asleep. Well, our victim, Quayshawn Burgess Jr. of 955 Forest Drive in Bartow, was in fact at 3 o'clock this morning dead in the street or the driveway of St. Paul Drive in Winter Haven. This is a picture of Quayshawn when he was 11 years old. He was a good kid. And Mom said that as he got older, he got to be a problem. Quayshawn is now documented as a gang member. He's currently on probation for a misdemeanor, a burglary that was reduced to a trespass. And quite frankly, he violated his probation because he's supposed to be enrolled in school. But Quayshawn has not been going to school this year. And in fact, some of our questions of probation, DJJ probation, is, had you violated him and put him in juvenile detention, then he wouldn't have been on the streets to have been murdered last night. Those hard questions will be asked later, and certainly we hope that there is some reasonable reason that a VOP was not done and Quayshawn was not arrested. But once again, the jail's not necessarily a bad thing, because had there been a violation of probation and had Quayshawn been in our jail last night, he would have been alive and well. He was shot. He was murdered in the street at only 15 years of age. He's had trouble at school. He's been the subject of investigations, but he's only had 2 arrests, which equaled 8 charges, and all of those arrests have occurred since May of this year. We know this. We believe, based on the circumstances at hand, that whoever murdered Quayshawn Burgess Jr. knew him. Interestingly enough, he lives in Bartow, he has family in Lakeland, but he's murdered in Winter Haven, and he was out roaming around on St. Paul Drive for reasons we don't know in the middle of the night. Quayshawn's mama's a good lady. She goes to church. She was trying her best. Quayshawn grew up, and he began to get in trouble. He had tattoos and was a documented gang member, but he's still a 15-year-old child, and his mother and his family loves him very much. we need someone to call. Crime Stoppers, 1-800-226-TIPS. Make $5,000, no question asked. Just tell us who shot, who murdered Quashon Burgess Jr. at some time just before 2:35 this morning. So at the end of the day, we believe that the person that shot Quashon Burgess was known by him. The information that we developed at this time, we have, as you might expect, some video from a neighbor. There was no conflict. There was no fight. There was simply the opportunity for Quashon to be shot and killed, and that's what we're investigating. So help us out. Give us some information. Keep Quashon's family, and especially his mother, in your prayers. Once again, Mom thought he was home. He refused to go to school this year. She just had her handful with him as he grew up. But once again, here's a good kid. And the streets had turned him into a gangster. But his mom still loved him, and he still loved his mom. He didn't deserve to die, and we're going to find out who murdered him. You might as well go ahead and collect the $5,000 and speed things up, because the murderers are going to jail. You can make this happen sooner rather than later, and you get money and don't have to get involved in it. Are there any questions?
What was this young man arrested for, those 2 arrests?
He had arrest for burglary and resisting. However, all of that was pled down to trespassing and probation. And he was on probation apparently since May of this year. Relatively minor charges. Resisting is never a good thing. However, it was not significant. He has been a suspect in running with shooters. And when you run with shooters, they turn the gun on you sometimes. That apparently happened last night. Now, was this one of the people he was running with? I'm waiting for the community to tell us. But when you run with shooters, you live by the gun, you die by the gun.
Sheriff, is this area known for its gang activity? And also, what's your message to parents? It sounds like this kid had a great mom. What should parents do if they're living in an area with a lot of gang activity?
Certainly. First and foremost, St. Paul Drive has a mixture of sinner and saint. There's some really good, hardworking people that live there. We've worked homicides, murders on that street before as well. So there is a mixture of sinner and saint. But if you're having trouble with your son or your daughter, there's help. First and foremost, go to the school resource officers where he or she should be attending school. Go to the school officials. We will make sure we get them into school and we get them before counselors. Because, listen, it's not all right for kids to shoot kids. Not now, not ever. Our goal is to protect Quashon Burgess Jr. We take an oath of office to protect him. He was a good kid who was going down the wrong path as he got into his teen years. And when you get hooked up with gangbangers and you get hooked up with shooters and you start running the streets and thinking it's cool, you can end up dead. And that's what happened to this Quashon Burgess Jr.
Sheriff, this year is overall gang violence, gang activity up in Polk County?
We started a gang task force in order to reduce this. Gang violence is on the increase across this nation. And of course, Polk County is no exception. While our crime is at a 51-year low, for which we're proud of, we've got problems with kids shooting kids. And primarily they're gangbangers. And they're not only kids shooting kids, but they're retaliating. And as a result of a Lakeland police officer intervening in one event, he was shot by a gangbanger. We worked that investigation with the Lakeland Police Department. After we'd arrested him for having a gun and breaking into cars 4 months earlier. He was 13 years old. So he's 13 that shot a Lakeland police officer not long ago. Our victim here is 15 years of age. I can't say in strong enough terms, this has to stop. And we as adults in this community have to stop it. And it starts at home. We can't manage them in school. We can't give them an opportunity to do better if they're not in school. We're not going to let kids shoot kids. If we have to keep them locked up in jail, so be it. I'd rather them be alive in jail than across the street in the medical examiner's office dead like Quashan is right now. That's why we have our task force. We've taken guns off the streets. We've arrested a lot of gangbangers. Our state attorney, Brian Haas, who is simply the very best, has made it abundantly clear that he will waive them to adult court and appropriately have sanctions over them to keep them alive and well. So at the end of the day, we're doing what we can. We have stepped up the action with our gang task force, but we've got to have mamas and daddies and guardians and friends helping us and the school system and the community. We're not going to let kids shoot kids. And someone shot this kid. We'll figure it out. Probably another kid. But as you know, when you hang with shooters, bad things happen. And a real bad thing happened to not only Quashan, but his family.
Sheriff, what do you tell about these other kids that are out there that are thinking about retaliation for their friend Quashan?
Certainly, we know right now there's someone out there talking about retaliation. Don't do it. Because you may be a kid thinking, well, I've got to retaliate. Well, understand, we're going to find you too if you do, and you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. No more McDonald's, no more Happy Meals, no more Walmart trips, no going to Disney, no growing up, no having your favorite car. We're going to lock you up. Whoever shot Quashan and killed Quashan is going to jail. And our goal is to make sure we take him to a jury trial. And our prayer is that whoever shot this young man never breathes another breath of air outside of the walls of a prison. But it's not funny, it's not cool. But listen, folks, you all know, they're listening to this gangster rap. They're watching these videos. They're making their own videos. It's cool to do. It is not cool to die. Death is forever. And cool warms up real quick in the morning. When the beer's warm, it's no more fun.
Sheriff, when was he first identified as a gang member, and can you share with us what details?
We are still investigating that. The documentation we saw indicated that he received the status as a gang member through the appropriate work yesterday. Why was that yesterday? Obviously, you don't just say this guy's a gang member. You have to go through several investigative steps, and we're working on that at this time to determine who and where. But we know that his problems ramped up quickly from May. And we know he was running with a bad crowd. And we also know his mother, who is a good lady, thought he was in bed asleep last night. He was at home when she went to bed with her infant.
Sheriff, you described the neighbor's surveillance cam video. Briefly, could you tell us exactly what you saw on that surveillance camera?
I could, but I won't. We obviously see things on that surveillance video that I'm not discussing today because we want to protect that, because we know it and the shooter knows it. But we don't want the public to know it because as we talk to witnesses and potential suspects, we want information that only they know and we know.
But it was right before 2:30?
Well, the shooting happened before 2:30 a.m. I'm not saying how soon before. Okay? Any questions? Any more questions? Going once, going twice? We'll update you, but folks, it's time for the communities, not just in this county, across the state and nation. This is a problem across the nation, and it's all because it's being enabled and it's being encouraged by social media and gangbanger videos and music and this running and gunning, and they don't show you the last chapter of the book. The last chapter, one of you's dead and the other's life in prison. And you live by the gun long enough, you'll die by the gun, and that's a guarantee. Okay? See you later.